Hey dudes, it's Larold, and this is a bit of a different kind of video from our usual. Basically, I want to set you up with 3 different price points for Ambush, the best strategy in PoE in my opinion, so that you can start relatively cheaply and scale up into a super expensive in-game setup where you're spending 2 or more divines per map, and then also making back more than that while giving yourself potential to get enormous jackpots. And on that note, I did make 230 divines in a single map last night while running this strategy. Feels pretty good. I also had several other more reasonable maps where I only made like 5 or 7 divines in a single map, which is obviously still very good. So the genesis of this idea is that we'd gotten several recommendations to do like farm strategy comparisons or tier lists or whatever, and I set out to do exactly that. I went alphabetically, started with Abyss, got through exactly one half of one Abyss map and realized I was extremely bored. I hate Abyss, even if it's good numerically. I just really wanted to skip to the end, which is that Ambush is the GOAT. Do you really need to know whether I think Legion is like a B+ or a B-? I don't, and I'm me. So Ambush it is, and then 3 price points is because we watch a lot of cooking YouTube videos where 3 cooks will like make the same dish with different ingredients, right? It's just kind of fun. And I think it gives a natural progression for players anyway, so something to start with that's cheap, something to work toward that's expensive. It's good to have goals in PoE. Alright, let's get into it, but first, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and join our Discord. There's a link to it in the description. Alright, I'll start with why Strongboxes are so good, why I'm such a huge fan. And that's mainly because they duplicate any currency or div cards they drop, and they tend to drop a lot more currency and div cards than regular monsters on average. This is all really good because it means that any jackpot drops you get, like a Divine Orb or a Hinokora's Lock or an Apothecary card, or God forbid a Mirror or something like that, is just doubled in value right off the bat. It's also a fast strategy, which is always my preference. I mean, that is the main reason I don't like Abyss. Abyss isn't actually bad. It puts thousands and thousands of monsters into your maps, but it means that you could have a 10-minute map, and that's not even like that terribly long. I hate that. I want my maps to be fast, and so Ambush really is the strategy for me. It does generate a ton of monsters in each map, though, so the chances of just killing one of the mini monsters spawned by each Strongbox and getting some sort of valuable drop is actually pretty decent. With that being said, I've seen people say that Ambush is also a good gold farming strategy, and that is just a straight up lie. I can pull down triple the gold on average using the good and plenty strategy that we talked about last week in basic tier 16 8 mod maps that I would in relatively comparable 8 mod tier 16 ambush maps. So I do like to keep another strategy on hand to farm gold quickly, good and plenty, and then bounce back and forth between ambush and good and plenty from time to time. Alright, so let's start with the cheapo depot strategy. For all of these, you're going to run ambush in the map device. Don't even ask, right? Of course it would be ambush. Why would it be anything else? There's also the added benefit, starting with this league, that by taking ambush, you get an increased chance to find ambush scarabs. So I feel like not taking ambush in the map device, even if you're not running ambush, just because containment scarabs are worth so much. I feel like almost every strategy that doesn't run ambush is like kind of shooting itself in the foot a little bit. So we're starting with the 2 basic scarabs that we're going to be using in every single one of these levels of running this strategy, and that would be hidden compartments, which just gives you a 15% chance for your strong boxes to be openable a second time. This does combine with some points in the passive tree. These small passive points, 2% chance to be reopenable, and then secret compartments, 10%, to give you, I think it's like a geometric equation. I don't know. I barely remember math. I'm old now, and I haven't had to think about math more complicated than algebra in like 15 years. You know, it gives you a pretty high chance to reopen the strongbox, and that is recursive, right? So like, it doesn't just reopen once. I've had times where I've reopened the same strongbox like 7, 8, 9 times, and this is just necessary for that to be so good. Then the other mandatory scarab is the ambush scarab of discernment. This makes it so that your strong boxes are more likely to be rarer varieties. We're also able to put our thumb on the scale a little bit up here with diviner strong boxes and arcanist strong boxes, which, as you would guess, drop divination cards exclusively and currency exclusively. These are our 2 favorite strong boxes. They're the main reason that we do this. You know, they end with duplicating all the div cards and currency items from the strong boxes. So making those be even more common is just obviously very, very huge. Now, for doing this cheap, what you want to do with the other 3 scarab slots is just throw in ambush scarabs. I think that's the best move. I know that ambush scarabs of potency are cheap. You could hypothetically swap one of those in. You could run like the 4 different types of scarabs that are cheap with ambush. I think that's fine, but I kind of rather just have more like more bites at the apple by just having more strongboxes in rather than trying to like juice the strongboxes themselves when you're only getting like 9 strongboxes out of this, 1 out of the Atlas passive tree, and then 3 out of this. So let's say 13 strongboxes on average. I think I would rather have 13 rather than 10 that are a little bit more juicy, but it's pretty close. All right, now let's talk about the Atlas passive tree that I like to run for this cheaper setup. And something that I'm doing that's a little different from the other 2 setups is, first off, I'm not taking the point and chiseled perfection here because I'm assuming this is going to be run on Corrupted 8 mod maps. If you're not using Corrupted 8 mod maps, if you are able to chisel your maps, then you do want to take this point and chiseled perfection. And then you really want to just give up a point somewhere else. I think the best place to go is just like one of these Eater of Worlds influence pack size points. Drop that. There you go. You're taking all of the map mod effect you can in the tree, a lot of points into scarabs. You're obviously taking all of the like stuff that you want out of strongboxes, these nodes down here, these little extra small points to give you more chances at more guys out of every strongbox is good. Taking all of the strongbox notables with the exception of concealed logistics. And the main reason I don't take concealed logistics, some people swear by it, and that's okay. You can take that if you want. I don't really want to have more chances of having cartographer strongboxes. I'm quite full up on maps now. I've got like, you know, we're not operating at like Path of Exile 2 levels of maps, but I'm full up on maps. You know, maps galore, right? So I would rather not have more maps, and I certainly wouldn't want to take away my chances of getting more like Diviner and Arcanist strongboxes. So I'm not doing anything with that. I'm just taking the quantity around the outside. A lot of different scarab nodes, and then the main thing that I'm doing with this strategy, it's a little bit of a wrinkle, is I'm adding in Delirium. So I'm taking all the small passives I need. That's like why I'm taking this little point down here and this little 3-point wheel to nowhere, in order to guarantee that Delirium mirrors spawn every single map. You're guaranteed to get that, and then kind of just taking all the nodes to make it so it's like easier to clear the map, easier to guarantee that you'll be able to kill the boss, and then you'll get a reward out of that from Imagined Pursuits, and you'll get a lot of splinters out of Screaming Whispers, and then a lot higher chance of getting Delirium Orbs thanks to these 3 small points. Again, like the notable here is actually not that great. A lot of really bad notables in the Delirium section of the tree, but a lot of pretty good small passives. So basically what we're doing here is we're using Delirium Mirrors to generate consistent profit and help offset the unreliable nature of strongboxes when you're operating at a low cost level. One thing to bear in mind is that opening strongboxes will cause the Delirium Fog to pause, so I like to give it a little time to spread out across the map. Like I'll run into the map, open up the mirror, just kind of go around and kill guys for a little bit, let that fog propagate all the way out through the map. Usually I'm running dunes, if I'm being honest. Let it get out to the boss, then I go start clearing strong boxes, and then it's very easy to make sure, you know, if you've got 10, 13 strong boxes in a map, it's going to be very easy to have that Delirium Fog up the entire time you're in the map. Then the main thing is just remembering to like hit the button to turn it off once you're done, and you know, then there you go. I also try to boss rush a little bit. Like I won't necessarily kill everything in the entire map. I'll go kill the boss once I feel like the fog is over to it, just to guarantee that I get that +1 level from Imagined Pursuits. I don't think it counts against you. Like obviously Delirium, you know, just increments the counter, doesn't make it so that it takes longer to get the next one. So I think you are actually kind of incentivized to boss rush since you're still doing like Eldritch Altar farm as well. All right, so in terms of the map you want to run, it's really up to you. You can do any map you like. Like I said, I like dunes. I have dunes in Defiled Cathedral. Well, I have Defiled Cathedral scryed onto dunes. They're right next to each other, so it's very easy to run one to maintain the other and then bounce back and forth. That's not a bad idea. I think really just because you're doing Delirium, any map that has like an easy boss is going to be a good idea. Mesa's not a bad idea. Jungle Valley, I would say, is a bad one. Like any sort of long, slow boss is not going to be great. You know, you can do stuff like Tropical Island where you're really forcing the Delirium Mirror farm, or Strand would be another example, but I would prefer to kind of keep the maps a little shorter and easier. We're not really trying to min-max a Delirium Mirror. It's really more about just getting like an extra 50 to 100 chaos out of splinters and Delirium Orbs at every map, basically. Now, something that you can also do to be kind of a fun little wrinkle is run Vol Temple maps instead. The boss in this map kind of stinks and the layout is also not very good, but it comes with 10 extra guarded Vol vessels, and these are Strongboxes, and they will benefit from all of your Strongbox nodes, and then they drop just the weirdest crap in the world. They drop like tons of double corrupted uniques, some of which can be quite valuable. They drop weird like corrupted essences. They basically corrupt everything inside them, and they will just throw all kinds of weird stuff at you. So it's not necessarily the strongest farm strategy, definitely a pain to get good Vol Temple maps, but just as like a fun wrinkle, you might just have like 10, 15 Vol Temple maps sitting in your map tab. I don't anymore, I ran them all last night, but you know, if you do, they're pretty fun to get in there and just kind of bust them up, see if you get anything cool, which I did. Like every single one of these corrupted essences I got out of Vol Temples last night, you know, not bad. So I will say that Delirium in this setup is optional. It's really good right now though. Like I said, Delirium Orbs are selling for boatloads, like 20 to 30 chaos each. Simulacra are selling for about 90 chaos, so you could easily clear like 50 to 100 chaos in Delirium rewards for every single map. And then also tack in the very inexpensive ambush setup just for like more money, basically. Otherwise, the rewards from Strongboxes are RNG. That's going to be true of every strategy here, right? That's always how it goes with ambush. It may be good, it may be bad, but it will be quick and it will be profitable over the long term. Sometimes you hit a spot of bad luck. It just happens from time to time. All right, so now let's move on to what I would call like the mid-level, the, you know, kind of, we'll call this high-end, and then the actual high-end we'll call like luxury good, right? So this is like the medium high-end version of Strongbox farming. We're still sticking with hidden compartments and discernment. That's a given. We're still using one ambush scarab, and we're using now potency and containment. Basically, we're just running the whole rainbow of ambush scarabs, right? One of every kind. And then I really like to do tier 17 maps, and I will try to roll these so that they have a really good more currency or more scarab mod on them. We're talking upwards of 100% more currency or more scarabs. You can use Maven chisels. I will say that the currency chisels are something like 75 or 80 chaos each, so they're pretty expensive. I think they're basically priced for group play. I probably would not use those, but the more scarab chisels are like 20 to 25 chaos, so if you got like 175% more scarabs, you could slap 4 of those chisels on and that'll bump that up by 100%. I think that's like pretty decent. Otherwise, I'll just use regular chisels on the maps. You know, it kind of is what it is. And I will say, we talked about this in a strategy last week where people said like, you know, I didn't run Fortress map, I ran some other map and I made less currency. Right, that's kind of inevitable with Fortress map. Fortress map is much better than the other tier 17s. It has an easier boss. It has a bunch of barrels scattered around the entire area that are just full of currency and scarabs. So if you're running tier 17s, I strongly urge you to run Fortress map, and if you run anything else and you make less currency, do not cry to me about it. Another thing that I think is absolutely mandatory in any tier 17 is 1 Delirium Orb. You can do more if you want, but 1 Delirium Orb is, I think, absolutely crucial for any tier 17 strategy because it adds a lot of guys, it adds a lot of quantity, but more importantly, it makes it so that the boss will stop and cast Delirium skills repeatedly throughout the boss fight. And for whatever reason, the Delirium skills are just much less dangerous than the tier 17 boss skills, so adding 20% Deliriousness to a tier 17 map actually lowers the difficulty level. Alright, I kind of realized I glossed over the containment scarab here, so just to kind of hit on that, because that's going to be part of this and the next strategy. What it does is it converts all of the packs in the map into Strongboxes. That's it. That's all it does, and as it turns out, that's pretty amazing. You go from having, you know, 20, 30 packs or whatever in a map, maybe more, depending on the size of the map, 40 packs, to having that many number of Strongboxes, and then that winds up getting multiplied by everything else that you're getting out of Strongboxes. Hidden compartments making them, you know, along with the Atlas passive tree, like over 30% chance to be repeatedly reopenable. The increased explicit effect of modifiers that comes from potency is, I think, kind of questionable when you're in the like 10 to 13 Strongbox range, but when you're in the like 30-40 strongbox range, it's very good. All that this does right is when there's quantity modifiers or this strongbox drops a couple extra items, you know, those mods are all stronger, and that's a good thing. So, you know, definitely good to have as like a big multiplier on containment. This also acts as like a big multiplier on any of the more currency, more scarabs, more increased quantity on these like tier 17 maps as well. So just a lot of multipliers working in conjunction with each other to cause you to basically just rain out tons of currency and scarabs and valuable stuff. All right, now let's take a look at the Atlas passive tree that I'm running for this, and it's the same one that I'll be running for the luxury goods version of the strategy as well. And so we're taking all of the same Strongbox nodes as before, still not taking concealed logistics. But now I am, because we're doing maps that are going to have a lot of like more scarab modifiers on a lot of the tier 17s. I am actually taking a lot of the blocker nodes. There was some discussion about this in the last couple of weeks, and I'm happy to be set straight that these do not reduce the amount of scarabs you get. They just simply orient them toward the scarabs that you want. Ultimately, this is the way I thought they worked for years. I was pretty sure they worked like this, and then there was like a bit of chatter that they didn't, and then there was some as definitive of proof as you can get in PoE world, some reasonably definitive proof that they do work the way you would want them to. So that's great, right? We're blocking all the scarabs that come from mechanics that aren't very valuable. Abyss, Expedition, Breach, Legion, like all of these are kind of low value. Ritual, for the most part, are low value. There's one that's kind of valuable, but monsters that are spawned by rituals that are hanging out in your maps and like shooting death at you are really annoying. So I'm always happy to turn off Ritual. And there you go, like keeping Blight and Ultimatum Scarabs in, and then I guess keeping Kalgur and Scarabs in. I don't know, I could see blocking those, but I don't want to spare the point for it, because Kalgur ultimately isn't too annoying, and sometimes you get Bismuth, and then that's just actually free mods on all the monsters in the maps, so it's kind of good. In terms of the other places I'm spending points, I am coming back in and taking the Quantum Rarity Wheel in the middle of the tree. I think it's worth it, and I am taking Shrines as well. I'm taking Shrines instead of the pack size for Eater of Worlds, and that's because we really don't have a lot of monsters in our maps anyway. I don't think that the Eater of Worlds packs are really doing that much for us compared to I guess just being like stronger for clearing through the like walls and walls and walls of monsters being spawned by the strong boxes themselves, and then also kind of quickly killing off the boss. Shrines also just do a better job of adding more monsters in, like, you know, guaranteed magic pack at every shrine, 50% chance for an extra pack. I think they just do a better job of adding like more monsters in than the Eater of Worlds nodes do for the point expenditure. Now, since this isn't an 8-mod corrupted map, I am again taking Chiseled Perfection. I also, just for like quality of life to reduce the amount of junk maps that I'm getting, I'm taking Singular Focus as well. There's definitely some optional stuff you can drop. You could drop the middle wheel with the Quantum Rarity if you want and put those points into like, you know, whatever you want, right? You could put them into the Eater of Worlds pack size if you want. I think that would be completely acceptable to me. It's just not the direction I've gone with this. Also, with All That Glitters, I have not taken All That Glitters for the Covetous Shrine. I do kind of like it. I just didn't feel like there was anywhere that I could really justify it. I mean, I guess I could just drop like 1 point in Scarabs, but I kind of would rather not. So that's the direction I've gone here. You know, guaranteeing 2 shrines in every map. Feel pretty good about that. And then, yeah, that's pretty much the setup. Not really anything all that special there. And this is the same setup that we're going to run for both this strategy and the next one as well. It's really fun. I think that's about all that I have really to say about this version of it. So let's now move on to the luxury good, the Lamborghini, the Lambushghini of strategies, if you will. So what I'm doing here is we're running mostly the same set of scarabs, except we are dropping the regular ambush scarab out, sticking with the other 4 ambush scarabs, and then we are dropping in a divination scarab of pilfering, and we are running tier 16.5 maps. And it is absolutely essential that you do this on a map that has good div cards on it. This is why I don't run pilfering on tier 17 maps, because pilfering makes all the div cards in the area get stolen by the map boss, and then the map boss becomes like more difficult, tankier, based on the number of divination cards that they've stolen, and then when you kill them, they duplicate all the div cards they stole. This works with the divination card Strongboxes, and so it has this incredible multiplicative effect. I mean, this is why I was able to get 4 Unrequited Love drops from a single map last night without a blue Eldritch Altar that gave like div card duplication as one of the mods. The cards dropped from the box. It dropped 2 of them. They got pilfered by the box. He did turn them into 4. Getting 700 div cards in a single map off of a boss is very doable in a tier 16.5 that has containment and pilfering and Maven chisels for div cards, which I bought a lot of those last night. I think for any map that doesn't have an amazing currency roll like this one, like I might actually be willing to spend a couple of divines on the currency chisels for this one since it is over 300% currency. But for this one, 154% currency, I'm going to use Maven's Chisels of div cards and get 100% more div cards out of that map. I feel pretty good about that. And so similar to the tier 17 map rolling where you're trying to shoot for like high values of either scarabs or currency, in this one you're still looking for high values of scarabs or currency, high quantity rolls. I am totally willing to exalt these maps. In fact, I did. I rolled this to like, you know, chaosed it and it got 4 mods and it had like over 250% currency, and I exalted it and I got 50% more scarabs and then got up to 320 currency here, which is pretty awesome. So like I was saying, the reason I don't run pilfering on tier 17 maps, really there's like 2 reasons. Because of the way Divination Scarab of Pilfering works, it would make the boss extremely hard, very like slow to kill, even if it is killable, it would just be incredibly slow and boring. And then the second reason is that Fortress just doesn't have great div cards. So you really want to be like throwing that juice at a map like Defiled Cathedral or something that you've scried Defiled Cathedral onto. There are some other good maps, like Basilica is pretty good. I think Ivory Temple is this one, and this one has great div cards on it as well. I think generally speaking, in terms of like value per map run, Defiled Cathedral is the best. You know, Apothecary is immensely valuable, but depending on RNG and how much juice you're adding, you might go 50, 60 maps between seeing apothecaries. So, you know, like you have to kind of be basing some of your decision making on that. Do you want to see like a big jackpot drop like every couple of maps? You know, Ivory Temple or Mesa might be the move for you. If you want a big jackpot drop that like is like mind-blowing money, but you might have to like farm for a couple of days to see it, then I think Dunes, or not Dunes, Defiled Cathedral with Apothecary is the way to go. And then ultimately, I think Dunes is like one of the best layouts. There are some other good ones though. Defiled Cathedral's actually not bad, so you can just run native Defiled Cathedral, have a pretty good time doing that. I'm totally on board with that. A lot of other layouts that I like. Tropical Island is one. Strand, I know a lot of people like. Jungle Valley can be pretty good, although not for pilfering. I think that boss is pretty nasty for pilfering. I feel the same way about Toxic Sewer. Kinda gnarly for pilfering. Having done some pilfering stuff there, I wasn't the hugest fan of Toxic Sewer with pilfering. Then the other big thing in terms of rolling your maps is you want to be at least 60% delirious, so at least 3 delirium orbs on these maps that you're doing pilfering on. I mean, I think you could very reasonably go to like 80 or 100% delirious. I probably should go to 100% delirious for this map because it is so juicy, but I don't know that I have the heart to do that. I do think I am going to buy some of these very expensive Maven Chisels though, just to, in fact, do that. Maven Chisel of Avarice. We're going to buy 4 of those. All right, 400. Oh, how annoying. We're going to drop 400 chaos on that. Or so. And yeah, there we go. Roll that up. Take a look at that. 319 all the way up to 419. Oh yeah, baby. That's going to be huge. And even though the amount of like currency or more scarabs that's added by a chisel doesn't get scaled up by map mod effect, the rest of the map mods will get scaled up by map mod effect. So this is going to be over 600% more currency in this map, if not more than that. So, you know, guaranteed mirror for sure. All right, now for the biggest, nastiest question of all with this final strategy. Do you spec out of tamper-proof and roll your strongboxes by hand? Realistically, yeah. It will make you more currency per map to drop tamper-proof and hand roll each of these strongboxes. It will also be slow and not fun. And so that's why I'm not doing it. I think it is good to do. I recommend other people to to do it, especially when it comes to fishing for good item quantity rolls on Diviner Strongboxes. When you're multiplying that with the pilferings, I think it is worth it. But it's boring. I prefer to just save some time and let the game roll the dice for me, even though I know that that is like numerically worse. I am willing to live with the result because I'm going to put fun ahead of profit in this case. You know, it's the same reason I'm not interested in running Abyss, but on a much smaller scale. I have played around with tamper-proof some. It's definitely better if you're willing to sit there and roll the strong boxes, and if you're willing to keep alchemy orbs and scourings or chaos in your like the right side of your bag to hand roll those strong boxes and make sure you don't misclick. It's good, definitely worth doing, but boring. So, you know, I'm not interested, but I would recommend it for you if you're really trying to min-max your profitability. So that's Ambush. In terms of fun and reward, it is clearly the best strategy in the game. It is my worth it winner of the day. You could argue that Abyss is more efficient. It's certainly cheaper because it's so boring. But let me ask you this. Would you rather be doing Abyss over Strongboxes? No way, right? So whether you're running the cheap strategy, the super expensive one, or something somewhere in between, Strongbox is really great. It's a lot of fun to do. Definitely my favorite way to play Path of Exile, and you know, hopefully it's yours as well. Hopefully you get some good currency out of your Strongboxes in your next map. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and join the Skipping Sleep Studio Discord so you can say hello to me and Sunset if you haven't already. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us so we can keep making more PoE content, become a channel member as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.